Great to be with you and looking forward to a great coaching session today. Hey, it's interesting. Coaching is an interesting platform. When you start thinking about coaching, you gotta ask yourself, well, what is coaching? I find so many people who are oftentimes so disenchanted with coaching or disenchanted with having people involved in their life, disenchanted with the idea of someone holding them accountable, disenchanted with the idea of someone knowing their goals, their dreams, their objectives, what their schedule is, their plan. You start looking at what coaching really is. It's simple. It's helping and assisting people to get to the top or to the next levels in their lives. So as you're moving through today's message and you're moving through today's coaching session, I have a number of questions that I've written down today that I want to ask you. And here we are at the end of the year. There's only a handful of days left to work, and yet you have the privilege in your life to be able to finish strong, which then as you finish strong, you then begin to be able to go and begin or to start very strong. So just remember, a strong finish allows you to have a very strong start. And as you move through your day, as you move through this week and next week, and as we tail into the end of the year, I just want to make sure that you recognize that most of what you have today is because you made a decision to have it. Whatever amount of business you have today, it was a decision on your part to have. Whatever lack of business you have, it was a decision on your part. Sometimes we will sit and look around and ask ourselves the question, why didn't this work? Why didn't I earn enough money? Why was it such a struggle? And the reality is that in most of those questions, if we will take the time, the energy, and the effort to take a moment and to just simply write out the answers, we often find them very, very quickly. We find that maybe we didn't prospect enough. Maybe we didn't learn some particular skill sets that were necessary in regards to our communication. Maybe we were not disciplined enough, where we were not making enough calls, talking and speaking with enough people. Maybe we didn't have the discipline to get to the office on time or follow a distinct schedule. And amidst all of the unrest that's going on politically and COVID and all the other things that are happening, the one thing that I know that I can speak to is that you have control of your life today. And you can say, well, I have to wear a mask. Okay, you have to wear a mask. But the reality is that beyond those little, I almost want to say tiny things in relationship to what is most important, is that no one can control the way you think. No one can control the amount of people you speak to. No one can control the amount of influence you have. No one can control the amount of discipline you put into your life. No one can control the way you think. They can't control your thoughts. They can't control your beliefs, and they cannot control the activities that you're supposed to take in the game of real estate. With all of that freedom, you have to ask yourself, what are you doing with it? Are you finding yourself, you're back against the wall economically? Are you finding yourself in complete turmoil emotionally and mentally because of maybe what you're paying attention to, such as the news, the media, and the sensationalizing of so many different factors? Have you considered the fact that each one of us lives in an individual state, and as important as the president of the United States is, whether or not it's Biden or Trump or whatever ends up happening through all the craziness that's going on, the fact of the matter is your governors are typically the ones who control the very states in which you live in. Most of you are coming from California, and most of you are coming from Utah. So it's Herbert and Newsom, or maybe it's your local leaders. But even then, at the end of the day, I want to ask you, do they control the way you think? No, only if you listen to all the media, the radio, the TV, and all the other sources that are trying to get to you to try to create the way in which they want you to think, to persuade you to a different way of thinking, to persuade you to thinking in places of fear and anxiety, depression and overwhelm. That's the job. That's where the money is made in the media. It's not the end of the news story where they say, now let us give you a little bit of sunshine and rainbows and a warm-hearted feeling when we end today. Yes, a few news stations do that, but the reality is the majority of the news is very negative. It is poisonous to not only your mind and your soul, and yet what it really does is it destroys your future. Because so much of what we worry about never comes to pass. So much of what we stress about never actually happens. The best example of that is every time you get on an airplane, do you think that maybe the plane might go down? Some of you may not, but I know the majority of you, or that first just big bump in the air, that turbulence that occurs. Do you feel the emotion, the fear? Do you think, oh my goodness, what if the plane fell out of the sky? The reality is how many times have you gone on a flight and yet you made it? How many times have you taken off and landed safely? Over and over and over again. Now, is there tragedy that occurs? Yes, but think of all the emotion that goes into what you think is the worst of what might happen. So seldom does it happen. So often it does not happen. That the fact is that you probably have very little to worry about. So look, today's coaching is really about doing really one thing. It's about assisting you, helping you to focus on the right things. That's what great coaches do, right? Great coaches get people to focus on the right stuff. See, even you as a great real estate agent, I want you to think about this for a moment. When you walk into a home, when you're working with a seller or a buyer, do you ask questions that get them to focus on the right things? See, sometimes they're so worried about the payment, or they're worried about a home warranty, or they're worried about a leak in the roof, or they're worried about the commissions that you're going to charge, or they're worried about how long it will take to sell, that they forget the overwhelming real reasons as to why they're selling, or the reasons they really want to buy. And the fact is that your job is to assist people to help them focus on the right stuff. Are you doing that? Are you doing it for your own self? Are you focusing on the right things that will help you to generate the success that you want to have? So, as I said, I wrote down a number of questions as we get into this today that I want you to write down, and I hope that you'll take the time to write them down. I hope that you'll express some of your gratitudes within yourself as to the fact that you have the privilege to work, the privilege to think, the privilege to feel, the privilege to act. You have privileges that are so precious. I hope that you're taking advantage of them. So, with that, I want you to write down 3 words. And if we have time, I might give you a fourth. But right now, I want you to write down 3 words. Here's the first word. I want you to write down the word purpose. The second word I want you to write down is I want you to write down the word goals. And the third word I want you to write down is values. Now, those of you who spent some time with us this morning, we just touched on values for a moment, but it spurred a thought of how important it is as we come to year end, the magnitude of importance of these 3 words, and frankly, borderline very well could be principles. So let's first start with purpose. When an agent comes to me and says to me, George, I want to sell 50 homes this year. I want to sell 75 homes this year. I want to sell 100 homes this year. Now, evidently, that's not the purpose of their life. Their purpose is not to sell 100 homes a year. I hope that all of us can come into agreement on that. That's not the purpose of your life. The purposes that drive you. The 100 is, or the 50 or the 25, whatever the goal is, that is the goal. The goal is a stepping stone. So write this down. I'm getting ahead of myself, but the goal is the stepping stone to living. The goal is the stepping stone to living out your purpose. Now think about that. So the question I'm always asking when someone comes to me and says, I want to sell 100 homes or 50 homes, 25 homes, that's great. Share with me what's important about those selling of those homes. And then we start to get into the purpose. See, it's important to know what you want. There is no question. You know, I believe that deeply. If you've been around me for 5 minutes, you know where you're going, the destination, your port, your summit, know where you're going. But as importantly as that, you also need to have a goal, because the goal is the stepping stones. It is the way in which you're able to live out your purpose. See, you and I both know that if you earn more money, you'll have hopefully more time. And if you don't have enough time, we need to figure that out. But if you have more money, you can then go do the things that I believe will create more memories, more adventure, more success in your life, to living out the things that are very purposeful to you, your most sacred desires. So first and foremost, simple question: what is my purpose? That's the question. What's the purpose of your existence, of your life? Why are you here? What is it that drives you? What is the reasons behind your existence on this earth? Some of you know. Some of you have been told by someone and say, well, that's what I believe. I sure hope that you get deeper than that. I hope that you get deeper and ask yourself, do I believe what someone told me my purpose is? I hope that you're wiser than that. I hope that you get deeper into your own life, into your own soul to figure out what is the driving purposes of my life? What is it that makes me tick? What juices me? What brings me light, hope, joy, love, and goodness? You say, man, that doesn't have a lot to do with real estate. It has everything to do with real estate, because I can tell you, someone who lives a purpose-driven life is always the person who seems to be earning more money. Always. Now, you can be in judgment. You can be in complete disagreement of people's purposes. But the more important question still at this point is, what is your purpose? Not someone else's, not someone else's who told you what it should be, not some religion that told you what it should be. What is your purpose? What is driving you? What's moving you? What makes you tick and what makes you juice? Right? What makes you get just so excited and such a love for your future? It is a purpose-driven life, a life by design, a life that is purposeful. So let's not forget that we must, first and foremost, gosh, if you're here, you are coming to the end of the year, answering that question. I appreciate people saying it's service and it's giving, and I love this, right? Get clear, because when you know what your purpose is, then it moves you to this. Let's write down the second point here, where the second word I had to write down was goals. Well, I wrote down, I want you to have 3 goals. Let's write this down, 3 goals in 3 distinct areas of your life. Now, you can have more goals. You can have all sorts of goals. I'm fine with that, because again, knowing your destination is a critical component to success. But 3 distinct areas of your life and 3 distinct goals in each of these 3 areas. Number 1, 3 distinct goals for your health. Gosh, if here you are, the end of the year, 2020, knowing specifically your goals regarding your health. What are your objectives? What do you expect to have happen for your health, your vitality? How long will you live? How will you live? What will you do as you live with your health? How will you eat? What will be your weight? Is it a triathlon, hiking a mountain? Is it long walks? Is it what is it? Maybe it's a bike ride. Got people in the company doing Ironmans and all sorts of incredible achievements and accomplishments with their health. What 3 goals will you achieve in the next 12 months regarding your health? Number 2, what top 3 goals will you achieve? But I'd love it if some people could throw up some of their goals and put them on that chat. What are some of those health goals you're going to achieve? Number 2, what are some of the relationship goals that you have? Just 3 distinct goals with your health, with your relationships. Maybe it's with your children. Maybe it's with your intimate partner. Maybe it's with your spouse. Maybe it's with a good friend of yours. But what distinctly, what precisely will you have happen as a mother, a father, a spouse, a partner, a lover, a friend? What type of adventure will you create? What type of memories will you create? What will you do to build the life that is set with a distinct objective and goal that allows you, again, to live more deeply, a deeper sense of purpose? Third thing I want you to write down in regards to goals is economics or finance, money, whatever word you want to use. Let's just label it as money. What 3 things, or investments is another word you could put up there, but what 3 distinct goals will you have in relationship to your, into regards to your money? What will you do economically? How many deals will you do? How many homes will you sell? How many families will you help? How much savings will you put away? Will you do what I can just might beat the drum of, buy 1 investment property at minimum per year? How many properties will you buy this year? How much will be in savings? Will you pay off things? Will you have your taxes paid on time? Your credit cards paid on time? Will you have any debt? I hope none, because of who you've chosen to become and the work that you're about to do. 3 distinct goals with your health, 3 distinct goals with your finances, 3 distinct goals with your relationships. Guys, think about this. Now, the coolest part about this, and you've set all of these wonderful goals. I hope that you're setting them right now. Don't say I'll get to it. Don't say, well, I hope to do it someday. I'll do that tomorrow. I'll do it later. Just write down 3 goals, each area. And then let's go back to the purpose for a moment. Let's go back to just talking about it for just a moment. Now think about the goals that you've written. Right now all of a sudden, someone I'm not up on the chat box right here, but someone said service is one of their great purposes. Well, to be of more service, right, then how many homes need to be sold? How much money needs to be earned? How much success one must have for the way in which they choose to serve? And you have 2 ways you can serve. You can serve with your time, or you can serve with your money. That's pretty much it. Time or money, because everything comes to that. Every decision we make comes down to the time or the money that we have. So is there a certain amount of time you need? Is there a certain amount of money that you need to live out the ability to serve? As an example, which is awesome. I love it. Right? How much money has to be? What does your health need to be like to be able to serve? What do your relationships need to be looking like in regards to just simply being able to go out and serve others and to be with others and to do things for others? Guys, this is a very simple formula, but when you get really clear on what your purposes are and you know distinctly what your 3 sets of these areas of your life, the goals are, it's crazy how quickly and how fast you can move your life towards living a deeper sense of purpose. Now, so we don't run out of time, write down the 3rd thing, which was that 3rd word, which is values. Now, I want you to write down something under values before I ask you the question, but write this down. My values must be in alignment with my goals. My values must be in alignment with my goals. And that's simple, right? You say, well, what do you mean by that? Let's say you value being home every single evening. And you then say to me, I want to sell 150 homes this year. And last year I only sold 50. How many evenings do you think you're going to be home? The answer is very little. Whenever our values get out of alignment with our goals and the objectives we have to really be careful. I can remember years and years ago when I started to come to this realization that whenever my goals were out of alignment with what I valued most, destruction was on its way. Destruction. Now think about this. Let's just say someone sets aside what they value most to the achievement of their goal. Now think about that for a moment. How sad and bad is that life when it's all said and done? You know that it's a destructive life. We may look at them in this one area of their life and go, wow, look how they achieved in their goals. And yet the rest of their life is destruction. Their health is bad. Their relationships are, in shambles. And it's so sad because they achieved the economic goal, but they lost what they valued most. Don't allow yourself to be that person. Wake up to the fact that aside from some temporary, and I say temporary to me is a very short period of time, temporary setbacks or temporary times that you pursue your goal over your values. And we say, well, what do you mean by that? I'm saying, look, if you want to say, I'm going to take 30, 60, 90 days and, just set aside some of the things I really value because I've got to sacrifice right now. I have found that to be okay in my personal life. But if that is a long-term sacrifice and objective, you will destroy everything you value most. So do not allow yourself. The unfortunate thing that I see happening with so many real estate people, from the real estate trainers to the real estate speakers to the real estate agents to the lending guys, title and escrow, I see it all across the industry where people sacrifice what they want most for what they just wanted at that very moment. They wanted the fame, they wanted the money, they wanted the success, they wanted the goal to be achieved, and they forgot that what they valued most was the depth of relationships. They valued most their health and their vitality. They valued most the ability to do things that were so much more important than the objective of a simple goal. Get very clear on what it is you want, the goals that you have to achieve it, and then keep in precious form those values that are meaningful to you and protect them at all costs. Do not let the goals override the values. Get very conscious, very mindful, get very aware, because if you do that, you will be that person. That will be the person who you sit back and go, oh man, what did I do? They're the people when I sit with them. What did I do with my marriage? What did I do with my relationships? What did I do as a father or a mother? What did I do when those are the conversations of great disappointment and great challenge. You don't need to be that person, because today you can say, wait a second here. I choose to live a higher level of purpose. Number two, I choose to know exactly what my goals and my objectives are. And number three, I'm going to get really clear on what my values are, right? My values could be love. My values could be time. My values could be relationships. Specifically, maybe it's your children, your spouse, your partner, your lover, your best friends. Each one of these things are the things you value. Maybe you value kindness, service. Ask yourself, really, what do you value? Just take the time to ask yourself, what's most important to you? And when you can align your values in alignment with your goals, that is a very, very happy life. There is no question that's what starts to happen. Now, I asked you the question, write this down if you didn't. What do I value most? I would hope that you would know that if I sat with you, and then if I said, let me ask you, do your goals and your purposes align with your values? I sure hope that they do. I sure hope that as you start looking at your life, you start to recognize that there's just a recipe that you need to follow. You want an extraordinary life? Know your purpose, know what drives you, know the juice of your life, know some of the goals and the objectives that you need to achieve that are important to you, knowing then what you value most. And then the last, which we've got time to do, we got 4 or 5 minutes left here. We've got number 4. I want you to write down the word accountability. Now, a lot of people don't like this word. They don't even like the concept. I've chosen to separate self-discipline or discipline and accountability. And the reason why I've decided to separate them in my lifetime, and look, the dictionary is not going to separate them. You look at discipline and accountability, they're very similar in the dictionary. But what I've actually liked to have done, I've liked to say this, that accountability is on the outside. Discipline, self-discipline, it comes from within. So for me, what I've recognized over these many years is that accountability, so write this down, accountability is my insurance policy. Accountability is my insurance policy to my dreams, comma, goals, and values. Period. Exclamation mark. Right? It's the insurance policy. And people say, well, what do you mean? Well, accountability from the outside. See, it looks like this. You have a coach who confronts you. They know what you want, but your actions aren't speaking to that. They call you on it. They hold you accountable to it. Now, some of you may say, well, I don't really like that. Well, you know what? I get it. A lot of people don't like being called on what they're supposed to do. And when they said this is what they were going to do and they did something different. But it's the insurance policy. Ask yourself, why are you not being coached? Ask yourself, why are you not allowing others to help you become more, to become better? Don't be like my mentor and dear friend, Steve Forey, said to me years ago. He said, most people die at 40 and buried in their 80s. Don't be that guy. Don't be that gal. Don't be the person who is dead, but just walking around in life. Can't be you. Why? Because look, there's no time frame that you can't begin living your purpose, driving your life towards some goals, and seeing yourself being highly accountable. And there's just no reason. And if you then wrap that around what you value most, everything comes together for you. And you look at people who do this, and all of a sudden you sit there and go, what happened? Well, what happened is they knew their purpose, they knew their goals, they knew what they valued most, and they became accountable to it, to themselves, to their family, and to others that they put in their life to say, hey, be my insurance policy to ensure that I do what I'm supposed to do. Now, look, in simple things, here's the question on accountability. I have two questions for this. Number one, how will I remain accountable? How will you remain accountable to your dreams, your goals, and your values? How will you? How will you remain accountable? What will you put in place? Have you scheduled a strategy session with one of our great strategists in regards to ESS? Have you gotten with your manager? Have you gotten with a close mentor, friend, and said, man, these are my goals. This is what I want. Would you be willing to help me? And at what point do we not recognize that the highest achieving individuals in real estate all have a coach? All of them. And yet you may not. I'm going to encourage you to get coached. I'm going to encourage you to put people around you to ensure your future to your purpose, your goals, and your values, to protecting them. They're protecting them. So I might have said two questions. How will you remain accountable? And then number two is, what will you be accountable to? Now, yes, your dreams, goals, and objectives and values, but what will you specifically be accountable to? Well, I've realized over the years, there's really only three distinct areas that you need to be precisely accountable in. And if you are, you will win the game of real estate. So write these down. Number one is the amount of practice. The practice. I love that. Accountability allows you to stay hungry. Is the accountability to your practice of your mindset, the practice of your skill sets, the ability to communicate at a higher level. Guys, real estate is becoming more competitive, more streamlined than ever before. To not elevate your mind, to not improve your ability to communicate, it cannot be something you do. You have to do it if you want to win at the game of real estate. So how will you remain accountable in regards to your mindset and your skill sets? Number one. Number two is personal exercise. Exercising, whether that be walking, running, climbing, maybe it's the elliptical, maybe it's the gym, maybe it's weights, maybe it's you play a particular sport, maybe it's your swimmer. What are you doing every day to elevate and to protect the vitality and the health of your body? Moving that body. How will you remain accountable to what you do with your health and your exercise and what you put into your body? The amount of food and the way you feed and fuel your body. The third thing I want you to ask yourself is, how are you going to remain accountable? Is prospecting. How will you remain committed to prospecting? Now think about this. Let's just wrap this up today. We're about done. We got to wrap up. But here we go. What if you were 100% accountable in 2021? 2021, you're 100% accountable to your health, to your relationships, and to your economics. Meaning, you took a step back and said, okay, what am I going to do and how will I remain accountable? Let's just dive it down another notch. How will I remain accountable to my mindset and my skill sets? How will I remain accountable to my health, meaning my vitality of what I put into my body and what I do from a place of action for my body, and my prospecting. If your prospecting was in order, your exercise and nutrition was in order, and your mindset and your skill sets, communication. And I'm not just talking communicating in business, communicating in your marriage, communicating in your relationship, your intimate partner, your children, becoming a better communicator, a better mindset and communicator. What would life look like now? I just want you for a moment to imagine a life that has that level of accountability. You prospect daily, you communicate and you work on your mind. You're eating right and you're exercising. You know your values, you know your destinations of your goals, and allows you then to live the purposes that drive your life and bring you so much fulfillment and joy. Wouldn't that be an incredible 2021? An incredible 2021. It would be. It would be amazing. So now sometimes when people hear all of that, they get really overwhelmed. Well, in closing, I don't think you need to be overwhelmed. In closing, I think that you need to simplify. In simple terms, make it simple. How many calls or how many contacts do you need to make? In simple terms, how many times do you need to go to the gym or exercise per week? In simple terms, what do you need to do? How much time do you need to set aside to practice and to work on your mindset and your skill sets of communication? How much? Hour of prospecting, maybe an hour or two of prospecting, maybe an hour or 2 or 3 hours of prospecting. Let's just say 2 or 3 hours a day. What if you exercised to 45 minutes to an hour a day? What if you had a buddy or a friend that you were accountable to how you ate and what you put into your body for a little bit of nutrition? And what if, I don't know, 4 out of 5 days a week, you were really solid on your practice in regards to your mind and your skill sets? Wouldn't you achieve all that you want? Wouldn't you have the life that you desire? Wouldn't you do the business you want? Wouldn't you have the relationships you want? Wouldn't you have the health that you want? And wouldn't that allow you, as you achieve those goals, to live out a deeper level of purpose with your time, your energy, right, and your money? Wouldn't it let you live a life that is such a fulfilling life that you would sit back and go, man, I have a beautiful life? Now, look, life is beautiful at every moment, really. But it would be even a much more beautiful life because you took control, you took charge, and you created a destiny and a future that you desired. And that's all I'm asking of you, to live a life that you designed, to live a life that you purposely live, to live a life that you don't push away from your values, push away from your goals, push away from your accountability, because maybe you don't see the pathway to get there. Get coached, get mentored, put people around you that make the biggest and largest differences in your life. Allow yourself the opportunity to be who you are capable of being. No more living and saying you're a person of potential. Let's live our potential. Let's be our potential. And how do you do that? You become accountable, you know your values, you hit your goals and define your goals, and you hit your goals, and you begin to live a purposeful life. A life that you design, a life that you chose to live, not that the media chose for you, not what your brokers, managers, and coaches chose for you, not what your spouse or friends told you it's supposed to be, not what your religion said it was supposed to be, what you chose to be. And that is a beautiful place. So with that, I'll leave you. Have an extraordinary week. Have an extraordinary day. And remember how important it is that you live a life that is purposeful. Each one of us should have that privilege and that gift. And so much of it is in your hands. And all you have to do is first define it, and then you need to be taking action towards it, and you will have it. Guys, have a great day. Finish strong so you can start strong. And I have to tell you, I have a deep belief in who you are and what you're capable. I've seen so many of you overcome such difficult moments. So wherever you stand, just remember, your current circumstances do not equal your future. It's time to go forward, and it's time to do great things. And this coming year is going to be an extraordinary year if you choose to make it that way. Talk to you soon.